Hey everybody, Matt here, and I thought I'd take you through what it takes to make an episode of Looking Back at Loss. Let's go through the basics that you need. Of course, GarageBand in order to do the recording, or whatever recording program you might use. Also, I take notes on Evernote as I watch the episode. Also, a couple of key bits here. You need to set your sound after downloading something called Soundflower, which is a free download. That basically lets the sound in your computer be sent along different, basically kind of virtual wires, as you might plug into a headphone to split it and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and send that to Soundflower 16, and then go into GarageBand again, go into the GarageBand preferences, as we, come on, focus here. Didn't say it was going to be a high-tech video. Audio input is going to go to Soundflower 16, yippers, and output to my screen, which is a TV screen, so HDMI. And with that, we'll just make sure that this is the track where I record the clips and I drag them into the clips track when I want to use them in my notes. We'll just go over to the settings down here and make sure that the input is indeed from Soundflower 16, that the monitor is on with no feedback, and it's cranked up all the way. I'll then put the recorder right about there, do a quick little sound check. As you can see, the sound is coming through. Then we just head over to Netflix to start watching the episode. Now, before I start watching the episode, truly, a couple of things. You'll notice that I do have the two screens open at the same time to both take the notes and to watch the episode. Definitely is distracting to be going between the two. I'd rather have the smaller screen here and be able to see my notes as things are going on there. Second, you'll notice in my notes here, I, over the course of the podcast, have gone for something that's more scripted than not. I just kind of like the way that it sounds. If I feel like I'm reading too directly from what I've typed, I found the really easy solution is just to look away. That kind of, that adds some of the uhs, the ands, something that's a bit more conversational, a bit less, I don't want to say a bit less professional, but just something that's in the more conversational tone. You'll see I have the different sections here. I have the introduction. Each week, obviously, I update where the name of the episode, update the episode count, the quick little feedback reminder, which again is not scripted word for word, but reminds me to hit those four things. Then basically the three main sections of the podcast: the summary, the thoughts about the episode, and then the hit to Lostpedia. As you can see, the fact that I don't have Lostpedia spelled properly for these notes, it's just a matter of kind of getting them down as quickly as possible. It's not about spelling. And let's check in a bit to see how the episode is going. So eventually it becomes time to do a clip, and I will let myself know that in the notes by typing in big capital letters clip. So if I do find myself on some sort of unscripted run, I just kind of know that it's coming, it's there, I can kind of transition easily into it. I have the moment queued up and ready to go. I didn't always do clips as I recorded. I wanted to initially keep the flow of the notes happening, so I'd stop, I'd write the time down, and that just kind of became a bit tedious where I'm already here, the spot is already here. If there's any editing I need to do, I can do it as it's playing. So then I head into GarageBand. I have my track all set, ready to go. Usually what I'll do is I won't start recording until once I've hit play, just so the clip isn't too long. So here I'll hit play, start recording the audio. So you see it there. We'll kind of head into that moment where Claudia's going to ask. So the audio is indeed recording here. And what I'll oftentimes do is I'll be typing away as the clip is happening to get those thoughts going. And with that, boom. So here we have another fairly typical moment for the podcast coming together, where here I am only less than 9 minutes in, and there's quite a bit to say about this scene, so Ideally, I'm able to type, and I can type quite quickly. Ideally, I type as the show goes on, and I'm able to say everything that needs to be said. But here we've just had one paragraph about the preceding scene, or pardon me, about the preceding scene here, and then there's still more to say about the start of this scene, about Mother. Well, she's just told Jacob that, or pardon me, just told boy Smokey that he's the special one, and there seems to be this kind of conspiratorial, and that's a bit harsh, but there's certainly a closeness, a similarity suggested between the two of them, not Jacob as we would have thought the preceding episode. So it's one of these things where part of the joy and part of the madness of the podcast has been saying, hey, I'd like to get this done in about an hour. The episode runs 40 minutes, about 42. And it'd be nice if I only then had to multiply that by half to get the episode done, but nope. You have to be paused while I type out the thoughts. And as you can see, the notes do, they are pretty pretty comprehensive. I'm putting commas in there. I'm putting ellipses. That's the ... Dashes. These are all various grammatical tools that in my mind, when I read someone else's writing that has ellipses or dashes or commas, it changes the pace of or the flow of how I want it to be read. So for example, something like the last sentence here, but of course the show doesn't always give us that. It primes us for it. It lets the moment pass. To me, that dash, that's kind of my clue that in my head when I read it, let's say later today or tomorrow or in a few days, that I kind of want to have that. It doesn't give us that. It gives it, it primes us for it. It kind of has the ta-da that a dash suggests. Commas being a shorter pause, ellipses being a longer pause, and so forth. Trying to capture kind of a professorial but conversational tone in the writing, and that's not something I always used to do. I used to be much more free with the notes. I just feel that this captures the sense of dialogue that I want to have with you, the listener, in a better way. So with that, I'll get back to typing. So of course, in the scene I was just discussing, which I said, oh, now I'm done talking about it for this little video, let me get my notes underway. Of course, that's the scene where they do something that I like to include in the beginning of the podcast, which is the actual, if they say the episode title, I like to include it. So what I have here are two different tracks, essentially, which make up the opening without dialogue. There is the hatch system failure sound, the hatch opening. It's actually two different hatch. I guess it's not exactly hatch open, but it's kind of the the buildup of the electrical energy at the end of season 2, and then the season 6 music here. As you see, it has kind of fades in and fades out automatically. In this track here is where the dialogue, the opening dialogue, will go. For right now, it just sounds like this. And at this point, the dialogue would normally be hopping in. So what I now do is, it doesn't need to fit perfectly when I first record it. I'll go in here, I will mute just that one track. This is the track that I'm recording the dialogue from. Go back to here, start recording the dialogue. And that's okay that the dialogue is fading down here a bit, because that's what it's meant to do. Because I'll go back and edit it in a second. Go back. And it is a bit early, but I'll just let it run, and after it's all recorded, I'll check back with you. So now that I kind of have the beginning stuff that I had over-recorded on cut out, now it's a matter of kind of cutting it down on this end. If I unmute this for a second just to add some color, you can see at this point here, this is kind of the climax of the, in fact, let me mute the audio. This is kind of the climax of the introduction. So I know at that point it needs to be, this clip needs to be over. So we can go back to it, just isolate it right there. Oops. Just isolate this clip and we can take a listen.
Can I keep the game? Of course you can. That's why I left it for you. Came from you? Of course it did. Where else would it come from?
So you hear some lack of dialogue here. There are times that I might cut that out. There are many clips where it's taken up by, well, good dialogue is interrupted by good acting or good camera moves or that sort of thing, but it doesn't play at all in an audio only medium. However, here I think the pause is just short enough.
Where else would it come from?
That's kind of hook you in.
From somewhere else.
Plus the fact that you have this bit of music here. If I'm going to cut that out, what I'm cutting out would be music is basically starting there. So if I'm going to get rid of it, it would just be to get rid of the ocean sound, and let's see what that gets us. It probably jumps.
Where else would it come from?
Actually, that worked.
Somewhere else.
We'll stick with that. But now the key is going to be, because we need to be done around here, I can obviously change this fade in, fade out. In fact, I'll turn it back up a bit just so we can hear. But it's got to be wrapping up in. It's got to be wrapping up in, kind of between here and here is when the music that already is going to be increasing in volume needs to take over. So let's take a listen here.
Across the sea.
So boom, there's the episode title.
There's nowhere else. The island is all there is.
So that seems like a good place to end it. Sometimes I wouldn't be opposed to cutting it, let's say here after, at that point before Mother's dialogue, because we could just come over here, increase the fade in, pull this back, and kind of increase that volume there. But instead, I think we could just get
Nowhere else.
there's nowhere else.
The island is all there is. Then where did we...
And then now we're going to cut that. His dialogue came in there a little bit. We'll kind of drag it back to get rid of that. I like a little tail at the end of a clip to be able to fade out with.
Is all there is.
So now that might sound like a rough transition there, but we'll stay at full volume through her dialogue.
Is all there is.
So then at that point now we can really drop it out quick. So we'll take one more listen to the clip as it is now.
Of course you can.
And we've listened to a lot of this. Just make sure the transition there is good. One more bit at the end here.
Is all there is.
Alright, then now we can test it back, as I always do, one more time. The whole thing. Now with something like that, it just strikes me, maybe we want to pull this back even more. Don't know how well the audio is coming across, but definitely we want that music down here coming in as it builds.
The island is all there is.
Yeah, that's much better. Now, you're not going to pick up much of the hatch opening on this particular take. The volume is turned down low. That's in part because the clip itself has so much ocean sound to it. To then add kind of the whirring of the hatch would not be the way to go. So here's another example of how I kind of edit as I go. I'm coming off a lengthy clip here where Mother's talking about, how now Jacob is like her and he's just drank from the water and whatnot. So I'm typing my notes here. What I'll do is once the clip starts, I'll make little, no pun intended, little notes to myself when to start the clip. Once Mother starts talking, that suggests to me that it probably has music before it, or, sorry, I take that back. What I want to say here is going to come after Mother starts talking. Now I had more to say, which I know probably won't fit the time between Mother stopping talking and the scene continuing. So I've put this little note here to say the rest either after the clip or while Jacob drinks. Depends how long that is. It's not something that I would necessarily time ahead of time and need to worry about right now. When I'm recording, you can see here, this is at, that's at the 13-minute mark. So what we have, this is maybe a 2.5-minute clip that is interspersed with some, some moments of dialogue, some moments of my own dialogue, and you kind of can fit things in there as it might need to go. So now back to the end of the episode. We have the final bits here. It's been recorded previously, or just say right before I hit record on here, I've typed what I want to say. Oftentimes I'll end an episode with the dialogue, with the closing clip. That's just generally the way an episode will go. You might have a longer clip that has interplay, where I'm saying things and intercut with the clip and all that, and hopefully it all comes together during the editing process. Once the episode is over, it's then time to get ready for the Lostpedia section. So we just head over to Lostpedia,